Someone once told me that having kids is so difficult that it begins even in the hospital with something called labor. My fellow Toastmasters and guests, we spend a great deal of time teaching the children in our lives, everything from tying their shoes to learning to drive. But one of my most memorable lessons came when it was time to give my son Francis the big talk. Oh, you know what the big talk is. We Toastmasters don't speak of it in mixed company. We give euphemisms like the birds and the bees, as if it's a conversation with a forest ranger. But I had to give him this life lesson when he was just 8 years old. His second grade teacher was Miss Patty. She was 2 years out of college and as fresh as a spring bloom. One day when the weather was hot, she came in with a short skirt and her shoulders were exposed. Francis came up to her after recess and said, "Hey, Miss Patty, nice dress." After the conference with the principal, we started to notice that he was making odd comments and making double entendres. So it was time for this talk. I wasn't in a hurry for this. Most parents aren't comfortable with this. I was hoping I could put it off until he was about, let's say 33, 34. But it was time, and I had to look for my opportunity. One day we were alone in the kitchen. There were no distractions. I turned to him and said, "Seems you've been talking a lot about sex lately." He froze. His eyes started around the room. He was already looking for an escape route. Yeah. You know much about sex, Francis? Yeah, I know some things. Really? What happens when a man and a woman have sex? Do you remember when your teacher asked a question and the people in your class had no idea and the blank looks on their faces? His expression said it all. He had no idea. I said, "Francis, I'm going to explain it all to you." And with that, I took out a pencil and paper and I started to explain it to him, drawing pictures along the way. It was an out-of-body experience for both of us. Random phrases pierced the kitchen as things just popped into my head. Every month, a woman's body prepares to have a baby. You'll see changes in your own body. Like, your heart will get faster and your pulse will quicken. Every once in a while, I would ask him, "Do you have any questions?" "No." But as I began to tell him more about this, his eyes got as big and round as banjos. He was horrified by what I was telling him. And then I noticed a look of disgust on his face. I realized a question had come into his mind. "And these things involve my mother?" How dare you? Finally, I asked him one last time, "Francis, do you have any questions?" And he gathered up his courage. And he said, "Yeah, do people actually enjoy this?" And automatically, reflexively, without thinking, I smiled at him and said, "Yes, Francis, people do enjoy this. This is one of the most wonderful things two people can share. But it's an important thing for adults with big responsibilities. You should do it when you're ready, and it should be with someone who's special to you, not just anyone." And accidentally, but intuitively, I realized I had spoken a great truth to Francis, one that he might not have heard otherwise. In this era of oversexed media overload, who's controlling the conversation with our children about the relations between men and women? In that unguarded moment, I reached out to him, father to son. And in teaching him this basic biology, the organ that I focused on was his heart. My wife and I always tried to be a good example to our children. We hoped that when we came home at the end of a long day and embraced each other after not seeing each other for so long, that their reaction wouldn't be, ew. Instead, they would understand that this is the way true love behaves after decades of commitment, and not merely an ephemeral and hormonal encounter. Francis is 23 today. And in preparation for this speech, I asked him, what do you remember about the talk? And he said, well, for one thing, your pictures were horrible. I didn't recognize anything that you wrote. I thought maybe I was before. But he added quickly, I think about what you say about responsibility and the special relationships, and I think about it every time I'm with somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, parenting does involve labor, but it's a labor of love. We need to speak the truth to our children, but more than that, we need to live out the values that we profess to them. When we do that, it amounts to much more than big talk. Madam Toastmaster.